All right, today we're going to be talking about 4 different ways to make money with real estate. Let's jump right into the first one. And of course, the first one is flipping. Okay, flipping real estate, flipping. Okay, how do you do a flip? Okay, and what are the pros and cons of flipping? Basically, you buy something bad, make it good. Okay, and that usually takes some money to do. And hopefully, right, bad price, the price of bad plus the renovation, right, is going to be less than the price for good. That's what you're trying to do here. Okay, the benefit of doing something like this, right, and obviously flipping, the idea there is that you can actually sell this off, right, which you may or may not want to do depending on your situation after you've done your improvements here, which is as represented by an arrow and a couple of dollar signs there, as you can see. Now with this method here, usually the bad property is actually quite cheap, right? So that's really good. Okay, so that's a really easy point of entry, and the good thing is that you can actually build what is called equity. Equity basically means value within the home pretty quickly, and then that equity value, extra value that you build in the home, can be used to buy and purchase subsequent investments, right? That's why we do this, because it's not about buying one property, but it's about buying multiple so that we can actually retire off of it and have a lifestyle out of it, of course. So with these, with the amount of money that you spend to make a bad property into good, unfortunately, that one doesn't often get financed. So you're going to have to need that as cash within your pocket, cash in pocket. Okay, so you need to have that in there. So that is the idea, and by doing this, people can generate anywhere between like 30,000, like within a couple of months, 30,000 to all the way up to, I've seen as high as like $150,000 in value add as well, which is really effective. And using that, they can then obviously move on to the subsequent investments as well. So if you can do something like that, that is really cool. And flipping is what they call this kind of activity, when you actually inject more value into the property by investing in some level of cash amount that's less than the actual value that you see at the end of what we call doing flipping. Second option is this. Second option is rental properties, basically. Right, it's basically buying a property to just simply rent it out. So what does it mean to just buy a property that's rentable? So ideally, what you want to do is you want to get the most out of this as much as you can. So you're obviously living in a place at the moment, and you're going to buy a place to actually rent it out. Now with this rental property, when you buy a property, right, the property is going to be obviously bought on a particular, like on a loan. You're going to have what's called debt on it, right? Debt has a cost. Okay, so and that usually comes from what's called interest, right? So you got to pay interest on your debt, right? Debt is the money you borrow to be able to buy a house. So with that interest there, okay, you're gonna obviously need to pay that out of something. Okay, it's either gonna come from your income, or it's either going to come from your rental. Okay, meaning that the rent that a tenant that you plan to pay within that property is going to be then covering that interest, or your income can cover the interest, or you're going to do that collectively. Okay, ideally you want the rental to cover the interest as much as you can. If not, rental to cover the interest and then left over with some more. That means just by owning this property, you'll have more money coming through the door than not owning this property. So it's actually really important to do this. Now when you do this, you got to actually have to do your math up front. I cannot stress to you how important this is, because your income might not be so strong. Your income could be really weak, or your income could be strong, but you weren't intending on forking into your income to be able to then uphold the ownership of a rental property. What rental properties are really good for is that it's not the most active strategy out there. So what this allows you to do is allows you to have longevity. Okay, who's heard of the statement? Okay, it's not timing the market, but time in the market. So if the rental price, the income that comes from the rental of the property is able to cover your interest plus any other costs of owning this property, right, then you can have longevity. That means that your ownership of this property is going to be what's called sustainable. And the longer you hold a property, the more money you're going to make. In Australia, on average, your property goes up at 5% per annum. Now, that is not little, guys. 5% on compound interest within a few years years you're going to do super duper well. So it's not like this is a bad strategy. Now, what you will be required to have when you want to do this kind of strategy is that A, you will need to be patient, and B, even before you're patient, you actually have to be very meticulous with your mathematics. If you are interested to have a dashboard where that's going to spit out a figure to you and it's going to be very easy for you to understand, go check out the link in the description below, and you're going to be able to see a list of calculators that are going to be appropriate for different strategies that you're doing in the Australian property market. So it's very important to your math up front, and you don't want to mess anything on. You don't want to leave any stone unturned, so that you know exactly how much money is going to go out, how much money is going to come in. Now, with the rental properties, if your deal is really dope, right, you're going to then make a lot of passive cash flow, and that is exactly what you want. And a collection of rental properties that are positively cash flowing is a gateway to amazing lifestyle. So finding a good deal is important. And of course, if you want to learn how to find good deals, go make sure you DM the word join, so that you can join a community of people finding dope deals and understanding how to do it. And if you DM that on our at Young Money Hackers Instagram, then we will be able to help you with what it takes to actually be part of that community. Now, the third method is obviously what's called REITs. Okay, I'm going to take a little bit of a break from an active strategy and look at something passive. So what REITs do is that REITs actually is, by definition, all right, a collection of dollars. So there's a person here, and this is all regulated, usually available on the Australian Stock Exchange, and everybody chips in a little bit of dollars each and puts it in a massive pool, and you know, it'll be in the millions and the billions, right? A lot of money goes in there. And then what they do with this money is that they'll go buy shopping centers, they'll go buy medical centers, they'll go buy farmland, they'll go buy ports, they'll go buy office towers, anything, whatever it is that makes money, they'll go ahead and do it. Now, these REITs will have a different specialty. Some of them, they like the medical tenancies, some people like the retail, some people like residential portfolios, all right? And what they do is they collect all of your money and then put it into an investment fund so that they can then invest into properties for you. Now, with these REITs, they act like a stock. So if you buy that stock, obviously that stock is going to go up or down and up and down in price as well, regardless of the book value of the actual asset that they have. So unfortunately, REITs is very passive, but yes, you can invest as little as like 20 cents into it. So if you want to exposure for real estate and that's all you can have, then you put your money into the REITs. Now, unfortunately, if you know one or two things about real estate, REITs is something that you'll probably not get into, because the return on REITs aren't particularly great, and it is volatile against psychological factors that drive the price of REIT up and down, regardless of how many properties it owns. Now, over the long term, it can perform really well. However, you will not be able to get any leverage, which means you cannot get any bank finance to be able to buy REITs if you're investing small amounts of money. But I do see a lot of people that own REITs as a passive strategy for a small portion of their portfolio, just to hedge their risk when they have a large fund, a pool of money that they have. So REITs, if you're beginning, is probably not something, I mean, it is both something that I do recommend and not recommend at the same time, which is really interesting. Obviously, guys, none of this is financial advice, only for educational purposes only. And I just have to caveat that just in case somebody thinks that they can get financial advice from YouTube, right? That's not true. Now, moving on to strategy number 4 is obviously house hacking. Okay, house hacking is really awesome. You can do it by way of buying duplexes or units, okay, or like a group of units, okay. Now, they are quite expensive as well, so you might want to partner up if you like. Or more popularly, what you do is you get a house with many rooms. So let's say a house has many different rooms, okay. You live in one, and then you rent out the other side of the rooms, and you obviously do that with a proper council consent and whatnot. And what you want to do is you want to rent out a room by room, which in actual fact, when you rent out the entire house, rent for a house, okay, is going to be less than rent for rooms, okay. So what that does is that it'll increase the cash flow of a property, meaning that you will be able to then use that cash flow to afford to pay off the bank, and then gonna have some left over for your own self. Okay, so that strategy actually works quite well, and you can actually cash flow quite positively as well. Obviously, the execution of this has to be right, and in the first place, you need to buy a house in the right location. Okay, Okay, and obviously we share all of that information, exchange all that information, so that you are buying something that is going to be worth its while. Doing this right, I've seen people within their first acquisition buy something quite not the most expensive that is able to positively generate, okay, cash flow wise, not even the value of the property going up, anywhere between 20k to like 80k per annum. So this is actually a very, very strong strategy, and the barrier to entry is actually not as high as you think. So, and once again, if you want to learn more, make sure you go check us out on Instagram at Young Money Hackers and DM the word join, and we'll be more than happy to get you guys hooked up with the community. All right, now my iPad stopped working, but maybe that's a good place to end it. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the 4 different ways that people can invest in real estate. If you'd like to learn more about anything else, or if you've got any questions, leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be happy to do a coverage on that, trying to help you guys out with any real estate queries or information. I will see you next time. Make sure you guys subscribe. Bye.